Wednesday, July 24th, would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Rebecca, would you please call the roll?
Director Underhill? Here. Director Ratterman?
Here.
Director Davidson?
Here.
Director Cicada? Here. President Thomas?
I am here. Okay, item number 2 on this agenda is public comment. At this time, members of the public can address the board on any non-agendized item. Public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. And just a reminder, no action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Hi, Ralph.
Hi, good afternoon, board. My question is to President or Director for my area, Russ Thomas, if he's had any conversation with CV regarding the Reed's Turnpike pump station, which proved to be a bottleneck during the Arrow fire. So I just want to know, I talked to you about this, I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I was wondering if there's been any movement or conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, ordinarily we would not be responding to that, but I think it's important to let you know that yes, that item is being discussed regularly.
Yeah, and I think we can elaborate just a little bit. Yeah, President Thomas has been personally in some recent meetings, and we can bring a detailed update to the next engineering committee meeting as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Stickless.
Hey, where's your stick?
Mike Castro, Valley Springs.
Welcome, Mike.
Our water quality in La Cantana has been less than what it should be for the last month. It's got a brown tinge. It smells of, what do you want to call it? Egg, sulfur, I don't know what. And what I just want to know what they're doing to address it, because we pay enough for water, and I expect it to be that I can just drink it out of the faucet, and it's getting to the point that I can't drink it out of the faucet. So it has to be filtered, and I don't think there's any excuse for what we're paying for water and what we're provided, that it's not something that I can just drink right out of the faucet. I understand once in a while something happens in the lines and we have like a day where the water isn't right, and then it clears out and it's okay. But we're talking pretty much almost the last 30 days that there's been a smell and discoloration in the water. So hopefully somebody will look into it and we will get better product for the money that we're paying to have better product.
Okay.
Okay.
I agree with you, Mike. We'll respond to that.
This is the first time.
Pat.
Patrick Roy, Rancho Calera South End. I just want to follow up a little bit on what Michael just brought up. I live close, overlooking the Jenny Lind end of the subdivision, and there are a lot of complaints originating in Jenny Lind in our end of the neighborhood for lower than usual water pressure and the discolorations and odors and so forth. I'm being told it smells like fish. I think it smells a little bit closer to SO2, but I just want to see if this is a county-wide problem, a district-wide problem, or a distribution problem, or a pressure issue, or something like that that's taking place. No, it's more widespread than just Marcus. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pat.
Are we aware of this at all? And this is two now.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Michael, are you aware of any of these? Complaints?
Not widespread complaints about it, but we'll follow up on it for sure and get back to it.
Damon's not here today?
No, they're down south.
Oh, okay.
We'll follow up on it.
Okay.
Hello, Francisco.
Hey, Francisco de la Cruz, Valley Springs. I've noticed that the External Affairs Committee meeting has been postponed, And it's been multiple months since we had the initial meeting about metrics and getting measurements and this and that and the other. This is the summer season. Is there any chance that we're going to get this thing done before the election? Or is it something that's going to be not really going to be worked on? I have similar questions about the strategic plan. There seems to be a lot of backward referencing to the strategic plan, but I don't see any forward-looking work on here's how we're going to achieve this particular objective that we set back in 2019. Thank you.
Don't we have a meeting on the 30th?
Yep.
We do.
Okay,
Next External Relations Committee meeting is next Tuesday. the 30th.
next Tuesday. Okay. We'll talk about what's going to be in there.
Okay. All right. Any further public comment at this point? Anything online? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items. 3A, approval of the minutes of the board meeting of June 12th. 3B, report on the monthly investment transactions for June 2024. And 3C, consideration of amendment of the district's conflict of interest code.
For acceptance.
Second.
Do we need to pull the consent or the conflict of interest code to go over this? Because this wasn't included in the packet, right? Investment?
All it is a clarification of language.
Okay.
So I really don't think that it rises
Did you
to,
pull it? Okay,
no.
all right.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approving 3A, 3B, 3C. Would you poll the board?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Cicada.
Yes.
President Thomas.
Yes. Item number 4, new business. 4A, discussion and action regarding the annual resolution to place delinquent charges on the county tax rolls. Hello, Jeffrey. Come and tell us.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. The item, excuse me, the item before you today is an annual resolution authorizing staff to send to the county to be included in tax rolls delinquent water and sewer accounts. As I stated in the staff report, although we have fewer delinquent accounts being submitted than prior year, our dollar amount has gone up. The breakdown on that, which I didn't have at the time of the report, of that 415,000, 235,000 is water, 181,000 is sewer. And we are constantly working this list. It is not going to the county until probably August 7th. So once it's published, we'll continue to do outreach with the customers. And so they have the opportunity to pay off this bill before it goes to tax rolls. And this is part of the teeter plan. So we will get the dollars. And then if the individual property owners do not pay, it then falls on the county to recuperate the dollars, including penalties and interest and whatever costs they incur.
Any questions of Jeff?
I just have one comment, and that is the fact that I know that the customer relations, the service reps are constantly calling on these transactions. But I have a little question. I saw one account that was, something like $8,000. That sounds, it might be commercial. That could be.
I can look into that particular account.
Mm-hmm.
But-
The ones,
But we do
there's
not list the names, we just list the AP.
right. And there's another one for $7,000. And so, while in fact we will be good, I'm just curious about why it got to be such a high amount of
Understood.
money.
I will look into that and get back to you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Do we offer any kind of a payment plan for these folks that are behind? I know it's been discussed in the finance meetings. Was anything ever put together to help when people get behind that we talked about a payment plan for a few months or something to help them get caught up? Was that?
We do have, obviously, as you're aware, customer assistance programs But as far as individual payment plans, at this dollar amount, no, we do not. It's kind of an outreach, working with them and providing different options for payments. We offer them the option to make monthly payments instead of waiting for the bi-monthly bill to
But
come.
now that they're behind, you don't have any kind of a plan to help them get in good standing.
We would be required to do that if we were to resume doing lockoffs, which we don't do anymore. Right now, I think it's just a matter of, we would work with the customer to try to bring them current, but it's not a formal
Yeah.
plan
It-
structure.
I remember several months back, we talked about coming up with some kind of a payment plan opportunity. Perhaps we can bring that back to the finance committee and see where we
Sure.
landed on that.
Yes,
Thank you.
and
On,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, on this subject, I mean, I'm kind of thinking it would be throwing a lot of effort into something that we're gonna get our money back anyway. And it's not, it doesn't cost the customer anymore to pay it when they're on their property tax or to pay it directly to us. There is no additional fees. So there's certainly, I would think that most customers are certainly aware of this, and some of them we know do it on purpose. And purposely never pay their sewer bill all year long, and there's only a $10 fee, which that's something that we could look at. There's only a $10 fee each month, so they only get 6 bills a year, and then $10 on top of that, so another $60. It all goes to the property tax, and they pay that amount at one time in their escrow company, it's paid through their escrow account, one or the other. But we get the amount, that same exact amount of funds delayed given. It's delayed a little bit when the property tax comes in, but I'm not quite sure that we want, as busy as they are in that front office, that we want our staff doing more to try and spend their time doing that when we get the money anyway. It's just
Well,
a thought.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a thought, and I hear what you're saying. I also would like to see if there's some way we could help to where they wouldn't get in that position in the first place. I know we have our, the payment assistant program, but the cost to go to Teeter does cost the district some money. Is it 10%, 1%?
No,
There is a fee.
yeah, it is, I
What's
believe
the
it's
fee?
1%.
1%. Okay, that's still something. It's not
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
But
You're,
anyhow, we can bring it up in the finance and talk about it as a committee and see
Good
Yeah.
idea.
where we want to go.
Well, I'd like to see you guys take a look at it because I mean, the last thing we want to do is throw a burden of foreclosure on Calaveras County.
Exactly.
I mean, if there's ways that we can, minimize, these delinquencies, which end up in foreclosure, which is a burden to the county, we should try to do that.
and
Thank you.
just to follow up something Director Radaman said, some people do it this way. We have some customers year after year after year, let it go to the Teeter plan, to the county and pay, particularly on the sewer side.
So
So
on,
what we can do is I will work with Kelly, and then we'll bring something back at the next finance committee meeting for a discussion on the process, because they're starting the reminder notices to help customers know that they are delinquent in their bills. There's no fees associated with that at this point. It's more of an education process.
and also, I mean, there is high expenses and people are struggling out there. So if we could potentially get to them before it gets 6 months in arrears to try and help them to get back on the right track, even if it's, pay your current and an additional 25 a month to keep you out of the Teeter program or something. Just something, but if we could talk about it, that would be good.
We can do that.
And I have heard the fact that there are some customers out there who do this all the time.
I know
And
a
that's-
few.
And, that's, that's rather disheartening, I think,
Yeah, but looking at the list that we have, I forget the number of how many it is.
Uh-huh.
How many of those are the ones that do it regularly?
I'd have to do a deeper
Well,
dive.
that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, is it, 50-50? Is it 5 of them out of, 100 do it? I mean, that to me still sees that there's people that could use them. I would imagine.
And we can discuss that further at the August finance committee meeting.
Okay, any other board questions? I do have a couple of questions, Jeff. Pick one of these, like the first one on the list, that $1,676.38. Does that represent a combination of water and sewer?
Actually, I don't have a breakdown of individual counts. I just have the total water and total sewer.
But,
I don't have this in front of me is what I'm getting at.
but can I conclude that that figure is inclusive of water and sewer?
At that dollar amount, I'm assuming it's both.
Okay, all right. And I see where the amount has increased by 57,000 over last year. And I'm wondering if it can be tracked that our rate schedule has precipitated a bump in these delinquencies. I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, we can take a look at that, but remember, the rates didn't start until October 16th.
Okay.
So there was that delay on the first few months, and then so this goes through the 30th of June. So there's only a certain amount of billing periods that with the higher rates.
Well, what I'm just wondering out loud about is whether it could be the increase over last year. I mean, we had several months of higher rates,
Right.
so I'm just curious about whether that is a tipping point, if we can identify that, or prove that it was not a factor. I'm looking for an answer to whether it is or isn't.
We can do a further deeper dive, and it could be too that, as Director Underhill pointed out, there was one account that was $7,000.
Yeah.
And I doubt that is, that to me would be more of a commercial property, a commercial account because of the dollars associated with that. I don't know if that related to the rate increases, but it could be that we're seeing more high dollar amounts because the number of accounts have gone down, but the total dollar has gone up. But we can kind of take a look and do a sample of, pull a representative of some of the different accounts and see what's going on there.
It wouldn't be a residential account because we do it annually, correct?
Pardon me?
We do it annually, so it
We
wouldn't
do
be a
it annually,
residential
so no,
account. I
you're
mean,
right.
there's some simple logic that we can use here. It's very likely a vacant multi-meter lot or a high consumption parcel,
Mhm.
most likely commercial or multifamily residential. We do it every year, so we don't allow them to get that high on a residential basis.
Right. And the other part is when the pandemic hit, we stopped lockoffs, we stopped reminder notices, and then we saw a spike. And then now in delinquencies, what Kelly and customer service has done is starting to send out notices reminding people that their bill is late. And there's no penalties associated with it. We're trying to educate them, and hopefully that'll help bring things down. It's not going to be the end all, because there's going to be multiple things that we have to work with. But that's something we're putting a lot of emphasis on.
You have something else?
Yeah, so the folks that are on this list, do they get a notice? Well, I know they do, stating that if they don't pay, it's gonna go to the collection through the county, right?
We do a
They'll
public
lose their
notice.
property. Public notice, or do you send them a letter
No,
individually?
we do not send each one a letter, but there's a public notice that goes out. And there's, like I said, there's 400, there's 395. We try our best to reach out to them. But when you look at this, the customer knows by their bill that they're delinquent.
Yeah, but do they understand that it could be being placed on their property as a lien? Sometimes if they know that exactly, whether it's a letter saying, Joe, we're gonna place your balance due on your property and place a lien through the county. If you want to stop that, and that's going to be a lot more expensive for them to do that.
I will reach out to Kelly and see what that would take to be able to send out.
I mean, it could be a canned letter, just change the names, the APN numbers and
Yeah.
whatnot, but.
Okay.
I'm gonna move for acceptance of this.
Just for, okay,
We got a
But-
second already, didn't we?
well, you can go ahead and second if you want, but I do have other comments, so I want to make sure. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll be talking about public comment here in a moment. But we very frequently deal with unfortunate circumstances where a person is gone on vacation or out of the area and they have a $3,000 bill that's produced because of a leak. I know that we're asking you to look at a lot of stuff, but I'm just wondering if there's anybody on this list that just is overwhelmed by something like that. They very well may have received a communication from us that we will waive 50% of that overage under these unfortunate circumstances. But I would hate to have somebody out there that just threw up their hands and say, I can't deal with this because I've got an extra $3,000 on our bill. So enough said about that. Okay, if there's no more board comments, open it up for public comment. And this likewise is, Pat, you've had your hand up for the longest time, so go ahead.
Thank you. And once again, Pat Roy from Rancho Calaveras. Regarding this proposal to add delinquent bills to water bills to property taxes, as a ratepayer, I strongly oppose this measure or this concept because first off, it in a manner of speaking provides CCWD de facto ownership or property rights on private property. Basically, it's saying that, okay, well, we know that rates are going to go up. We know that because of the higher rates, there's going to be more people defaulting on their bills. So we want to guarantee that we get our money and we aren't going to be viewed as the person that's responsible for taking somebody's property in a public auction or lien sale because the county is the one that's going to get blamed for it. So we're going to avoid the optics, the negative optics of taking somebody's property, but we're going to guarantee we get our money. And you're going to bypass. The intent is to bypass an already legally present option of collecting your money through court activity and getting and obtaining liens or being awarded monetary damages for people's failure to pay. So this is just a way to get around having to follow a legal process. I am somebody, Russ, you mentioned leaks and so forth. I'm one of those people that suffered a tremendous bill increase because of the improper installation practices used in installing a digital meter, which snapped the outlet fitting at the meter for my house supply, which I was held responsible for because it was at the house side. You know, it was a total failure by the part of the installation crew. So there's going to be other people like that. I mean, basically you're trying to avoid having to take responsibility for collecting money. You're going to put it off on the county's back. It's just wrong in every sense. In a manner of speaking, it's just a new property tax that's going to be added to people's already onerous property tax bills without any vote, without any approval of the people. So it's underhanded any way you look at it, but thank you.
So just to clarify here real quick, this is not a new program. This is not, has nothing to do with the rate increase. CCWD has done this every year for many years. It is just a program that is available to special districts as a much more efficient way to handle collections rather than the process that you mentioned. That is an option we could take, but it would cost us a lot more. And the return is a lot, it's a lot harder to get, a lot less if we were to handle it that way. So the CCWD's cost would actually increase. This program is available to special districts. It makes it much more efficient. The collections process already occurs at the county. It is it's not a property tax, but it is, the rate structure that we, go through that Prop 218 process. So the public process of approval of those rates prior to imposing any of this. So it's all, and then all we're doing is the delinquencies that are 90 days past due are then moved to the teeter plan that reimbursed by the county at that point. It's just a much more efficient way of collecting past due debt.
Semantics of terminology doesn't change what something is. The appearance is realistically what matters, and the optics of this is just wrong. You talk about a process that's available or programs that are available for people to take advantage of reduced rates. Well, those programs are based upon PG&E guidelines, which are based upon a state average or income averages or national income averages. And we're dealing with a county whose annual income starts on average, the median income here is already 10 to 15% lower than the state median. So it's not effectively adjusted to reflect the income levels. That program is not set up to reflect the income levels of the people that reside here. So those qualification requirements are artificially high. I can name several people, myself included, that could qualify for this program, the reduced rate program, if the limits or the income limits were just slightly reduced. If you got two people in a house collecting Social Security at the national average of say $1,200 a month, they would be exempt from qualifying for this program, regardless of what other debt they may have or expenses they may have. So this comes down to just a means to guarantee that a nonprofit organization gets all the money it can from nonprofit individuals. I mean, it's just totally wrong. They owe the money. You have a legal process that already exists called court to get a judgment and then file a lien and legally follow up on the lien. And the optics of that are very, very clear. You also had the ability to terminate water service to properties that,
We don't.
has that been removed? Okay, so my apologies for being in error on that, but you have legal remedy. Yes, we are going to have more defaults. The doubling of the rate structure guarantees that because wages haven't gone up. Nobody's getting more money with it. Nobody's income is increasing at a rate relative to the rate of inflation or the rate increases with the water district that's already among one of the highest in the state for water fees.
Excuse me, Patrick, we're well over our 3-minute allocation here. Can you finish up, please?
I'm sorry, but that's where I'm at. But thank you. So I was responding to Michael Minkler's. I thought that might comment. I thought that might have given me more time, but thank you very much.
Try to just ask a couple questions.
Sure.
I'd like to make one correction, please.
Sure.
And this is what Director Cicada said. We do mail out letters and notices to customers.
Oh.
And they go out as soon as you adopt this letter. I mean,
Okay.
these lists, and then we'll send them out.
So it gives them time to pay up
Yes,
before.
we
Yeah.
needed your official action before we can send it.
And since you said that, when's the deadline for you to submit your tax roll to the county?
We're looking around August 7th,
August 7th.
somewhere, yes.
Okay, Director Davidson has a,
No, I'll go ahead and have
Go
public
ahead.
comment and I'll.
Go ahead,
say something
Mike.
after. Just
Thank you. Mike Rogers from Valley Springs. Boy, this report creates more questions than answers, I think. So you've indicated that all of these accounts are 90 days or more in arrears. Is that correct?
don't look at me. I didn't.
Okay, so 90 days. So I assume you have an aging report that would show 180 days and so on. So that would be one question to look at, is to parse this data a little further, knowing, having an aging report for this data for the board. So number two, how many of these delinquent accounts are owner occupied versus tenants? Because the way I look at this is kind of like an interest-free loan. I mean, really, that people, once they know this, I'm a tenant. What's the incentive for me to pay the bill if I know that it's going to get passed on to the landowner? I mean, it's kind of open season here. They're not going to turn my water off. They're not going to turn me into collections. Where's the incentive?
Well,
To pay
some
the
of that
bill.
was taken away from us. I mean, the ability to disconnect the service has been taken away from us.
Yeah,
So that took that.
yeah,
took that part away.
that's the hammer. That's the
not something
hammer
that
you
we
have.
did.
Without that hammer,
Yeah.
I mean, but again, I would parse this data much more detailed and find out, okay, how many of these are owner occupied And, looking at the aging report, some of these, you start looking at $7,000-8,000. This is a little more than, there's somebody's gaming the system. Okay.
Certainly, appreciate it.
And some of these are sewer.
mean,
There is no turning off of sewer.
Sure.
You just gotta go. Let it go.
But I think you guys need to take a deeper dive in this, parse the data a little bit more, see, how many are owner occupied, how many are commercial versus residential, et cetera. And then start looking at what some of the root causes are, because this is.
Michael, I think you're right. And I think that's what Cindy and that committee should do, is take a look at some of the dates of this stuff to see how we can maybe come back to some of these longer term ones.
Right, because if you got a repeat offender that's year in, year and out gaming.
Yeah, but we're, we only have so much authority to do that. I mean, everybody thinks we can do whatever we want. We can't. But to your point though, you make a good point about the aging of these. Also, I think to Pat's point earlier about, taking these to the county is going to foreclose. Typically, when there's a lot that's foreclosed, it's not just the water bill that has not been paid. It's property taxes.
Correct.
And they do it all in one. I can't remember when we switched
when the
this, Jeff,
property-
but
Or when the property's sold.
I can remember back when we had the foreclosure crisis, 2006, we had an abundance of these and people were just flat out walking away. And it was really bad because the banks wouldn't change title. They wouldn't take the title. They'd be under foreclosure for a year or so. They would not take title because the debt stayed on the old property owner, wouldn't go to the bank. And at that point, we tried to get legislation, statewide to say, hey, wait a second, the banks, if they're gonna kick these people out, they need to be on title. But they never would do that. I mean, I think we're doing our best to do it the most efficient way. If the county's gonna foreclose on a piece of property, it's not just because of the water bill. They're not gonna collect just the water and sewer bill. They're gonna collect property taxes and whatever other liens.
Absolutely. It's got to be a bigger
Most
nut.
efficient. We did go through the collection methods and it was extremely tough. And you could go through the whole process and the people say, yeah, I'm bankrupt. And so you spend $2,000 to collect $2,000. It just didn't work.
And then it ends up costing all the rest of.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Your contention that going through that process is very inefficient.
It's not a perfect situation,
No.
but there's some room, and I think Cindy's on to something.
But I mean, if you parse this data a little further and you can deal with some root causes of these and maybe eliminate the top 20%, the big numbers that are out there, this $7,000-8,000. I mean, somebody's gaming the system. This is not, this isn't just somebody who's, and I'm sure there are residents because of the cost increase that fall into that bucket that Pat was describing, but I think there's something else going on here.
And also just remember that we have 395 delinquent accounts this year, 402 last year. So it's flat. The number's up because.
But the numbers are up. The numbers are up 20%.
No,
So
well,
$57,000.
Money, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a big chunk of change. So.
Right, I understand.
But if you've got these repeat offenders, I mean, if I'm a homeowner or a business owner, I own a piece of property, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to sell it in 2-3 years. I'll just deal with the water problem 3 years when I put it on the market.
Well,
That's why we do this every year.
that's hard to do because then you got a
Property
lien on
tax.
your property.
Property taxes do every
You
year.
pay the lien when you close escrow.
Well, it's not,
So
I mean,
that's
that's not the way I would want to sell a piece of property, but.
You're a good
But-
person.
So we'll bring back some more detail to the finance
Okay.
committee.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Just one other quick thing, what would be interesting too is to find out how many of these actually do get, the county does actually collect. I would like to know that percentage, because I don't think it's gonna be very high.
And what I can do is report back to the finance committee on the actual number of accounts that we've sent to the county. Because we do have this window in our outreach, and a number of people wait for the last moment to pay, but we'll have a final number once it goes to the county.
And even then, the ones that are paid once the county issues their lien, as opposed to going to
What do you pay
foreclosure, would
that?
be an interesting thought.
We can look into that. And as you said, number of customers, especially on the sewer side, this is how they pay their bill.
That's 1 month.
It's only.
They wait till it goes on the tax rolls and they pay their bill. I remember one person in particular, we did each and every time until, or they paid at the last minute.
And Mike, before you go on, Jeff, we're looking, these are supposed to be 90 days and older. So why does one say $175 due? Why would we even be putting that on there? $251. I mean, didn't we have some kind of okay, anything X number on up?
It's just, that's the amount that exceeds that time limit. There might be.
Oh, so
delinquency
the
on
total
account might
bill
be
would
higher
be
than that.
the months
Yeah,
plus that.
right.
It
There
could
could
be.
be more.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah, that's most likely the case there, yeah.
But why are you not putting the full amount that's due us?
Because we only go 90 days. They may have something
But
current.
$175.
That could be what is left unpaid on a prior bill.
That's 90 days old.
That's the 90-day old
Bill
bill.
that's 90 days old.
All right.
We work with them and they do.
Okay. Go ahead and make your comments to the microphone to us if you can.
My question to him was, is some of the smaller numbers on there because they're making partial payments but not full payments, so you're seeing a reflection of not an entirely paid bill, and he kind of indicated that, yes, that is part of the problem. So, I'm gonna guess the increase is rate related because the number of people that are due is dropping. I was puzzled with this comment here that says the, placement of the specified delinquent balances on the county tax rolls ensures collection of approximately 415,000 and avoids the need for subsequent bad debt write-offs. What is the bad debt write-offs been in the past? And has it been such a concern that now we want to get it on the county tax rolls to avoid that? And the other question that I had is, so this is all 90 days that they're delinquent before they get on this list? And how many times a year do you put things on the county tax rolls? Is this an annual thing? Is it a semi-annual, quarterly? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and as I mentioned when opening this item, this is an annual process because the items are put on the tax rolls for that. We provide them information in August so it can go out in the tax rolls for the 24-25 tax year. So it is annual. Avoids the need for subsequent bad debt write-offs. The only time right now, and maybe that's a little bit, I agree, it could be confusing. Our bad debt write-offs are when a customer sells a home and and remember the bill goes with the property owner. So a new customer or new homeowner buys a house, it's got a $500 pass through. We can't pass that on to the new homeowner. We can't go and put it on tax rolls. And this happens during the year. So we have to send it to collections. And the moment we send it to collections, we have to write it off. And at that point, we're hoping to get money back, but we're lucky to get 25% back through collections.
Why are we not doing liens ourselves? Because they're very easy to do and they don't cost us any money. Why, when we get to a point where somebody's behind, we're only doing teeter annually? So lien the property when they're at 30 or 60 days. And if it sells, then they have to pay it during the sale and you don't lose.
Yeah. We don't always know when a house is going to sell. We're notified when the house is sold.
But you know when they're late though.
Well, we have a number of, we do outreach with customers and we do provide that. And our tools are kind of limited because we can't lock them off, shut offs or.
There would be a cost associated with leaning
Yeah.
every past due account if we were to do that for each individual one.
But it doesn't cost the district to file the lien. There's a little bit of labor involved.
Well, attorney
That would
fees.
know quite a bit.
Why attorney fees?
Well, I mean, they would just oversee if we were to do that, but we would then be liening every property and then removing the lien every time the debt is paid. It would be administratively
Well,
a lot more.
The thing is I did liens at Murphy Sanitary District and myself or staff member did them. One time the attorney looked to make sure the verbiage was all legal, and it's an simple process. And you have a better chance if you file one of those at X amount of time, 90 days, whatever. Then when they go to sell, you're going to collect. We won't have to write off any debt. But the ones that are behind and they sell right away, then, out of luck, I suppose. But anyhow, I'm just wondering why we're not doing liens throughout the year on those that are warranted.
We can take a
Instead of
look at
waiting
that.
to
and
year.
bring
We
that-
could
I think
talk
this
to
is
the
just a more
finance.
Efficient program, but.
Yeah, but it's an
we-
annual. How much do we write off every year for a bad debt?
It varies. At the height of the recession, it was 140,000.
What did we do just last time? How much was that one?
I believe it was like 130,000 for the
It's a
whole.
lot of money to just be writing off when we could file a lien and potentially collect it and once you have the letters all good, I mean, we're looking at maybe staff time, 15 minutes for each letter and then somebody filing it. If we have a note, we have a notary on staff, I think we do. Anyhow, just something we could talk about.
Sounds like a great committee item.
Yes, it
There we
does.
We'll
go.
bring it back.
Put that on there, please.
There we go.
Francisco doesn't like it, but you know.
Okay.
You have APNs for all these. Have you mapped them out to do a hotspot to see if it's a geographic thing? So you could decide, look, we can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. We got nothing but turnips out there. You know what I mean? If this is a disadvantaged community and you have a high concentration by APNs, you might be chasing something that doesn't exist, like money. The other thing is, this is only going to be published as a public announcement, right? So the legal paper in Valley Springs is the Valley Springs News, and then there's the Enterprise. That's where it'll be published. Could I suggest that Kelly do a couple of shout outs, say, hey, keep an eye out for this, because if your property's on there, we're going to lien you.
Well, Jeff just said that everyone gets a letter, so
No.
they,
Yes.
They
Yeah.
do get elected. Okay.
they're,
I didn't hear that part, but it's still a nice thing to let people know
So
that we're coming after you.
Michael, from what I understand, filing a lien anyway, well, even the teeter program I participated in, we had to, in the meetings, publicize which ones are going in,
Mhm.
but I don't recall it being law that we had to post it like in a newspaper. We don't have to, right? As long as we have it in our,
We
Open
post a
meeting.
notice that it's going,
Right.
properties are going to be going to, delinquent accounts are going to the
but I don't,
tax collector.
yeah, but I don't think we have to put it like in the newspaper, correct? Which is really expensive, I think. It's one more additional cost.
We don't, it's just a notice about this big going through.
Oh, so it doesn't, but
No, it
doesn't
doesn't
list the
list all the
properties?
properties.
Oh, okay, okay.
Come on back. You
We got a town hall.
have 30 seconds left.
Is there any way to look at those and differentiate between home or property owner occupied properties and tenant occupied properties, and therefore do liens on the tenants rather than?
We cannot do that.
Yeah, you can only lien the
My
personal
brain's just
property.
going, it would be unfair to penalize the property owner for the actions of the tenants.
We can't lien the tenant or the property owner could address that in an agreement with the tenant to make sure they're made whole. But we have no recourse against the tenant, which is why we make sure that the property owner is our customer
Okay.
Yeah,
in every account.
Okay, are there any other public comments on this item? Okay, this is the one we have a motion and a second on.
I don't know if we have a second, do we? We have a second? Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Would you please hold the board?
Director Underhill? Director Retterman?
yes.
Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Cicada?
yes.
President Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Did somebody mention that was complicated?
This is the most detail we've gotten into it, and since I've been here since 2008.
Yes, I,
Okay,
But, all the comments have been very good,
Yeah,
and we'll go ahead and take those and come back to the finance committee with more information.
thank you.
all right, moving on to item 4B under new business, discussion regarding the 2023-2024 Calaveras County Civil Grand Jury Report. And Michael, are you going to handle this one?
Yes, so I'm gonna make it brief. We did include, so the civil grand jury report came out last week. with an investigation into CCWD. We provided just a very preliminary response to some of the key points in the grand jury report in the agenda packet. So the staff report in the agenda packet mainly intends to, first of all, acknowledge that the grand jury does, plays a really important role in Calaveras County. It's we actually appreciate them looking at CCWD. It's an opportunity for all of us to learn. And it's always good to have outside perspectives on what we're doing. The intent of the staff report was just to correct some inaccurate information that was in the grand jury report, and some of the findings were based on some of that inaccurate information. So we wanted to make sure to clear up any confusion that might result from that. So I wasn't planning on going through it point by point, but that was the goal that we were working towards in the staff report. The district or the board of directors has 90 days to provide a much more detailed formal written response to the grand jury. And that's something that staff will assist with, that the board will ultimately be providing a detailed response to the grand jury itself. So this will be, this will come back and we'll have an opportunity to discuss the detailed, finding by finding responses to the report. But wanted to make sure we have an opportunity to discuss it here today publicly, along with the clarifications that are in the staff report. So I think rather than go through it point by point, if there's questions from the board, happy to entertain those and go from there.
Okay, board members, do you have any comments on this?
Yes and no.
Which is it?
Yes,
Okay,
they're both questions, comments, whatever. They're all concerns to me, everything that was brought up, but one of the biggest ones had to do with staff. And I think we have brought that up before. And I'd like to find out how we're going to correct those comments that were made. How can we be better at whatever is we're doing or not doing, we should be doing, to make sure it's we don't have this complaint that is listed in there. Fearing retaliation, afraid to go talk to people. Just the culture seems to be wrong. And I'd like to make some kind of a workshop to figure out how that gets fixed. That was my biggest thing that stood out to me. The other thing, the lease program, I've been asking for a long time to let's see how the numbers have panned out. And I think this report gave me a lot more information than I think I had been getting. So that's something I want to see, we're looking at it. If we bought vehicles, they're an asset, gives us a little bit of value versus a lease program, we're turning them over. So I would mind a little bit more discussion on that to make sure, is it the right program?
Yeah. So on that point, real quick, if you want me to respond.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a kind of just a discussion thing going on anyway.
Yeah. So the lease program, I think there was just a misunderstanding of what that program is in the report. It is, with no obligation to return those vehicles. Every dollar we put into them is equity that the district retains at the end of the term. The district can, sell those vehicles back, and it's not a traditional lease program that people are accustomed to, I think. And
didn't Damon just report out that
we have reported out on that program on multiple occasions.
No, but we're keeping 5 of them, aren't we? Wasn't that a recent?
Yeah, so Damon has reported on it on multiple occasions. We actually have some folks from Enterprise that joined the meeting today in case there were detailed questions that anybody wanted to ask of them. But the program that we have is not what is discussed in the grand jury report. It is a completely different, the nature of the program is completely different. So we tried to correct that in the staff report. Like I said, Damon has given those periodic presentations, but happy to bring back a more detailed discussion item to the finance committee, or if folks have questions about how that program works, like I said, we can dive into it more deeply here, or we have folks from enterprise that.
I guess what I haven't seen, it's like when I hear the narrative, it all makes sense really good, you know. Fuel's higher or cheaper, what have you. Repairs we don't do, but I see all kinds of repairs. What I have asked for, and I haven't really seen that I'm aware of, you know, is, you know, here's what we spent. Here's what we spent in the past between our repairs. So we're saving X amount. I know we're saving something, but at what point is it enough savings to warrant the outflow of what we're doing currently? You know, and when do we make that catch up with that investment? You guys know what I'm trying to say? You know, we invested $100,000. When we're going to get paid for that $100,000 by the savings, you know, whatever those numbers are. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. And I want to say it seems like a really good program, but I don't know, because this was brought up. I just thought maybe we should delve into it a little bit more. You know?
And Cindy, this is a question that you always ask, and I've heard you repeat that over and over again. You know, we spend how much money to instigate a program or make an improvement, and what are we getting in return?
When are we going to recoup?
When are we
where
gonna-
we're
Mhm.
saving instead of keep putting out?
Mhm. And I think that's a fair question. I think it's a very fair question, and Cindy needs to keep saying it until you get.
Until I understand it enough, I guess. I mean, I think it's good, but how many years do we have to do this before we see that? And I imagine this isn't going to be our only discussion, correct? Okay. So yeah, I'm okay. You know, again, that employee turnover and workplace culture is a big for me. I think all my board members know.
Yeah, we're happy to, I mean, that one's a little bit harder to respond to just in terms of, you know.
It's employees,
not
right?
as clear cut of an issue. You know, it's something we constantly we're working to address. And we're working on, you know, gathering some more data from staff that will help us address that issue. And yeah, we can continue to bring that back to the board.
Because
wait a minute, Director Davidson had a question.
Well, I'm just kind of on procedure here because, you know what, there's 4 or 5 different items on this. Obviously, I mean, the people are here, they want to have some comments on this. I have some comments on it. I mean, certainly we want to address each and every one of these at length.
Right.
We haven't done that. We just got a short response from staff, right?
Right.
And I was just curious, what is the invited response from Calaveras County Board of Supervisors? Why is that even there?
Yeah, so it's, you know, just a tool that the grand jury has is to require responses from the board, which, like I said, we will work on. But then also invite responses from other interested entities. Individuals members are listed in there, the County Board of Supervisors, even though they don't have direct jurisdiction over CCWD. The recommendation in the report was for the Board of Supervisors to request an audit from the state controller. And so inviting the response, the Board of Supervisors under no obligation to respond, but inviting a response to that request from the board.
Now, and that's something I definitely want to find out more about what that means. Because, I mean, why would we care?
We
Why would
don't
we
necessarily
care?
have to care. If it's informative, if it's something that's beneficial for us, obviously we'll listen and we'll take a look at it, but it's, you know, we do audits every year.
Right, that's what I mean, we do our audits, but how would the state controller's audit be different? It'd be a different set of rules or just a different set of eyes. If it doesn't cost us anything, why would we care? But anyway, I don't want to just pick bits and pieces of this, but you know, one example of this is I think it might be an opportunity to discuss the lease program, which, you know, is fairly new. I think they acted like we've done it for like the last 15 years, which we haven't. It's a very new program. But I mean, in this, I think something that Francisco has been asking us, this might be an opportunity for us to explain what's coming in regards to the all electric fleet deal. I mean, this may be the only way, and it may be an opportunity to explain to the county what's coming to us. you know, not just what's coming to us, but what's coming to everybody else, and whether or not this program fits in that. But, you know, spending, you know, $1 million on an electric semi, knowing that the technology in 5 years is going to be way better, we may absolutely, if we're required to lease these or buy these things, we might want to be in a lease thing. But I think that there's definitely an opportunity to explain some of our thought process and what the future, the state of California is requiring that we do.
Yeah, we touch on that briefly in the staff report. We can elaborate on that, but just, you know, reducing the age of our fleet at this point in time in advance of that program going into effect is absolutely in the district's interest, and that's part of what we achieve through this program.
But anyway, I guess just to wrap it up, I kind of want to get a timeframe and some explanation from staff as to when and how we're going to address these. Are we going to address these in the appropriate committees of response and then bring it back to the board? And just something for everybody out there, kind of have an idea when we're actually going to really come up with a final response to this.
I think,
Or are we gonna put a proposed response out there, get comments from the public, and then perhaps reevaluate it and then resubmit it to the grand jury, or what are we gonna do?
yeah, I think ultimately it's the board is the responding entity. And so, you know, that's something that staff can help develop and present to the board, but we want to make sure it's reflective of what the board's response is. And so we'll bring those proposed responses to the board for feedback to make sure we're accurately, or that the response accurately reflects the board.
Do we do that
And we have
response?
to do that within 90 days.
Do we do that response in closed session or no? Is it open? session?
I think for the most part, I mean, we respond to a lot of it already in the public staff report. It will subsequently be published anyways. So I think, you know, it would mostly be in open session.
That, or, you know, maybe we do a workshop that we're focusing just on this report instead of in an open, I mean, make it an open meeting, of course, but not a regular meeting.
Yeah.
Let's do it in a workshop to where we delve in one item at a time.
And I have one
But
more,
there's 2 or 3 pages of item.
Yeah. We have to respond to each
Right.
finding.
I have one more comment. This is in response to Cindy's request about wanting to see results. On page 506, it talks about CCWD contracting with a consulting firm to assist with successful implementation of the financial and payroll HR modules, and to advise and participate in the analysis of the UB module to ensure the system is constructed effectively and that all processes are optimized. So that's CCWD retained the consultant last March, and the process is scheduled to be complete by the end of 2024. So that's going to give you the results that you need. Yeah, no, yeah, I know. Yeah,
Director
so
Raddick,
that's, you know, just something showing, giving,
See the numbers.
uh-huh.
Yeah, I agree with Cindy on the vehicles. I'd like to see a snapshot, 10-year snapshot of what we did with vehicles, what our costs were with vehicles, and what we were paying for maintenance. And I don't know,
Yeah.
maintenance and the purchase of vehicles, and then the, you know, residual salvage sale at the end of their lives. That's what we did for 20, 30, 50, 80 years. That same program, we changed it to go to this new program. On an absolute date, we purchased a bunch of vehicles, $83,000 worth. And then since then, we've had what? That's the report. And I think that's the report that Cindy's asking for as well. Just a snapshot. This is what we paid then. This is what we're paying now. And therefore that's here's the benefit or the
Right,
problems, whatever it turns out to be.
right.
The, and that would be, that, I think that would resolve if, we could respond to that, but I'm guessing that Michael, you said that I don't know if you're listening intently right now to what each board member says, and that's how, and then staff's gonna prepare a report, a response. Okay, and then you also said, and we've already started that response. That's not the board's response. That is in our packet
The
today.
board has not responded yet
Okay.
at all.
All right.
Staff included some information in the staff report to correct some of the inaccurate information that was in the grand jury report, just to try to address some of the confusion. The board has not initiated a response yet at all.
Okay.
So this will absolutely be a discussion. Ultimately, it's the board responding.
Okay, so I just wanted to understand that process. Okay, my comments are, I'm interested in seeing what we find out on the lease program. We've been talking about the Tyler software integration with AMI for, it seems like decades. We've
2
been
years, yeah.
discussing that is a problem. We know it's a problem. We didn't do it right. We want we put the cart before the horse or something. We did something wrong and this is the best time I think to put that all, everybody knows. And there's so many people in the building to talk to about that it's affecting their jobs. And I mean, including rolling finance into it. This is we do need to get those details out here and throw it in this report as to, and acknowledging, not being defensive, acknowledging we did something wrong.
Right.
That wasn't the right process that we went through, whatever it was, whoever's fault it was, whoever made decisions, we got to make decisions, financial decisions. We, with these software things, we do it all the time and it's not always right. We're still working on making it right. And I think eventually, soon, I think that will solve itself. My major, and I think those two issues we'll be able to put a report on and they're right. There's something happened at CCWD when we made a transition that it's causing us to stumble a little bit. But we will eventually get it right. But we need to report out on that. And I think that's what we've been hearing from the board. Several members of this board have been talking about it for at least 2 years, not decades, but
Yes,
at least a
to
couple
respond to that, I mean, we've had a lot of different report outs on that. We had planned one for the finance committee in July, even before this report came out. The July meeting was canceled, so that was moved to the August meeting, but we'll have a detailed report out on that in August again.
Okay, awesome. My main concern is on the culture, employee turnover and workplace culture. And there's comments in here that bothered me. One of them is I'm going to read the bottom of page in the report, bottom of page. I'm not even quite sure what page this is, but
Yeah, they're not
a
numbered.
few interviews shared that they had not received a performance evaluation in a number of years. Just that one sentence, I think we've got to, I want data on that.
Yeah,
Or is
me too.
that a fact? Is it someone slipped through the cracks and not getting their reviews and got promotions or got their steps without doing? But I just want to see if that comment, that one sentence comment is anywhere close to correct.
Sure.
And then get some facts. Let's see, there might have been one or two that slipped through the facts. There might be one manager or supervisors who didn't do their reviews timely. But for someone to come forward, someone here did say that to somebody. And then the other fear retaliation for expressing their opinion about any aspect of operations. That's on the same page, a couple paragraphs up. I do, if there's fearing repercussions, force employees to make drastic measures in order to communicate with a board member. We do need to talk a little bit more about that. And I do think we have policies
We do.
that would alleviate that.
Yeah, those are extremely serious allegations.
Yes,
and
those are, I mean, we need to find some answers to that. That's all I have for right now.
Well, to me, it sounds like we need to find the solutions for the employees that feel that way. And if we have a policy, the policy must not be working.
Okay,
Maybe.
everybody through? Okay, I have a couple of comments. Number one on the lease program. I think that the grand jury, the members of the grand jury, they had good intentions, but their conclusions were really not well founded. The fact of the matter is we got 19 back in 2019. We got about 19 trucks. All of a sudden, I mean, they didn't come in all the same day, but we did get new trucks outfitted. And there's, I agree with everybody's comments here that there should be a financial analysis about whether, the old way was better than the new way or vice versa. But I would submit to you that there's a very real, but maybe difficult to quantify the value of the employees being able to get into a truck that they know that they're responding to a problem in this large county, that they're going to be able to get there. And I don't think that you could say with any kind of certainty that the trucks that we had that we replaced would make it there. And so how do you put a value on that? I mean, I'm not sure that it's possible, but it certainly would be important to me if I was an employee expected to go out in the middle of a winter storm, that I was going to be able to get there and get back. So that to me, and the fact is that we have, at the end of the 5-year lease term, we have the option, we can get the pink slip to that vehicle with no additional payment. It's not like I think that maybe the members of the grand jury had a bad experience with a lease vehicle, that they wanted to lease a car for 5 years, and they found out that they've got to come up with another $1,300 or $2,500 at the end of the lease term. This is not written that way. And the registration is changed when we decide that we want to keep a vehicle. The enterprise is no longer the lien holder on that vehicle. We have clear title to that truck, or that pickup, or whatever whatever that particular item is that we want to keep. So I'm confident that what we're going to find is that the lease program is justifiable to keep, and there's some strength in numbers, I suppose. I don't know whether the grand jury made a telephone call to the county to find out that they too subscribe to this enterprise program. Other cities and other counties and special districts throughout the state subscribe to this enterprise program. We're not the only ones that have made a wrong decision here, and I think that there's a certain amount of defense of our.
We don't know if it's wrong.
Well, that there certainly would be an indication that people that maybe are as smart as we are, or maybe smarter, have made that decision based on their analysis. Okay, the other thing going on this employee retention, there was a really, really strong argument made for the fact that we eliminated the lifetime health coverage, and that has resulted in people quitting this organization. And that expense of that lifetime, maintaining that lifetime health insurance coverage, jumped off the page to me when I first got on the board. That, my goodness, it's a very short period of time, this district was going to be responsible for paying more for health coverage for people that no longer worked here for the rest of their lives. And that was a completely undefensible position. It's not sustainable. It couldn't be. And so I don't think I've ever had applause before, not here. But anyway, that needs to be addressed strongly.
And the funny thing, I don't know that many people that left here moved to a position that's going to give them lifetime medical.
Most agencies,
That's hard. That's a hard statement to even.
most agencies have gone away from that same
They can't
program.
support it.
And we have not, there's no data to support that we've lost any staff as a result of the change in the benefit. I think that's one of the other things that clarify is the report said we terminated retiree health benefit. We didn't terminate a retiree health benefit. We changed the benefit. We provide a different benefit than what we used to provide. And it does provide significant cost savings to the district. There is still also a benefit that took its place. And we've had employees that vested under the previous benefit that, if they had stayed here, could have kept that benefit, that decided to leave anyways, and they lost it. And so it really wasn't as significant of a factor in employee retention as was laid out. But that's, it's hard to blame the grand jury for that. That's a really, unless you've talked to the employees as they leave and you have that data, that information, it's hard for a grand jury, I think, from where they sit to be able to have that perspective. But I think that's why it's on us to make sure that.
We didn't highlight in the staff report, but I did that positive point, but we certainly should highlight that in our response to them.
Oh, yeah.
That is something that,
Yeah, well, I just thought it was laughable that they would be suggesting that if we reinstated that all these employees would come back or we would be able
we
to
did it
attract more
with,
people.
with and in front of both unions.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
they
a,
were
it
part
was
of
a
this,
meet
part-
and
part of the
confer
process.
thing. It was a negotiated
Yeah.
change, so I don't know, we clearly made the right decision on that, but anyway, that's all the pontification I want to.
I'd like to say a couple of things. There are some things where we feel like we want to defend ourselves, but keep in mind that this is something that we should use as a good tool
Mhm.
to make any repairs necessary, just help us really see. And as far as like the lease program, you said, buying the cars are better than having them drive older cars. I agree with that. I want to see, because one of the things, because I was part of that, approving that lease program, it was, you're going to save all this money on repairs. And you'll see me go through the check register. Well, why are we buying this? Why are we doing that? Those are the things that I really I want somebody to assure me, show me the numbers that here's what we used to spend and here's what we didn't. And then we haven't talked about the 5-year rate plan. I think we may have, well, we did follow the law. However, there were some things that we could do better that I would love to talk about when it's time to get to that point. I think this is just a quick refresher. Let's have a workshop and I'm going to make better notes to how me personally, how I would respond to these and see if we can incorporate anything. But, this to me is a learning opportunity to do better.
Yeah, absolutely. Where, like I said at the beginning, where there are, lessons to be learned here, we're gonna take that seriously and reflect on that and include that as a part of the, as we go forward and provide responses and clarifications, but also what we can learn and what we can do better.
I want to thank the grand jury for, this couldn't have been an easy task for them. And I think they did the best that they could. And I respect that. And I'm thankful that we have an opportunity to look at this and make us better where we can.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
Yeah.
Okay, any other board comments on this? I kind of get the impression that there may be people here that want to comment on this, so.
Could I ask for a brief recess before we do that? Because
No, we got to power right on through. So how about 7 minutes?
That too.
7?
7.
Better. Somebody's doing a return on highway and took, yeah. The whole side of my car, thank God, they're totally it.
This one?
Yes. Driver's side was beautiful.
Okay,
2 days after his.
Bad
It's-
luck.
okay,
Oh, yeah.
we're back in session. It's been brought to my attention that we have some folks from the enterprise that have been listening in today. And I want to acknowledge and show my appreciation for that. And I'd like to ask them if they have any comments that they'd like to make at this point.
What's the enterprise?
The enterprise?
Leasing.
Enterprise is the vehicle lease program.
Oh, his vehicle, I thought.
Oh,
So did I.
well, that's,
So did I.
Michael,
Like who?
when you talked to me this morning, you said people from the enterprise.
Enterprise, not the.
The enterprise, okay. Well,
The
I stand corrected. Maybe the enterprise reporter should be here. But, anyway, correcting that, if somebody is willing to kind of weigh in on this thing from the perspective of the enterprise leasing program, please do.
Sure, I'm more than happy to. Are you all able to hear me? I just pulled
Yes,
myself off
perfect.
mute. Okay,
Perfectly.
great. Hi, everybody. Anthony Emlin, Area Sales Manager with Enterprise Fleet Management. No comment on the discussion at this time. I just want to thank you all for the evaluation and keeping this open for discussion. We're more than happy to provide the results that you're looking for. Obviously, we'll lean on Damon and Mike Minkler just for some of the information that we don't have in order to put that together. But no further comments at this time, aside from we're here to evaluate what's the best fleet strategy for the district, taking all items into consideration, and also showcase the overall results from the program at large. So we can certainly circle up with Damon and Mike Minkler at a later date to start putting that together for board review.
All right. Do any board members have any questions of this gentleman with enterprise leasing? No?
Nope.
Okay, thank you for your comments, and we'll be seeing you soon, I bet. So, okay, moving on to
We have
the.
public comment.
Hmm?
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Moving on to public comment. That's what I said. Yeah.
Hey, back when the enterprise newspaper used to come,
Yeah.
all you'd have to do is take a lunch break and then they'd go home. You know, you'd have all your hard agenda items at the end of the day. They'd leave.
All right. Do we have anybody who wants to launch into public comment on?
Ralph.
Okay, Ralph, 3-minute rule.
And if you could tell us which section you're commenting on. Hey, Ralph, will you tell us which area you're commenting on, just so I want to kind of follow along in the report with you? What section you're making comment on, like is it the 5-year plan, or just tell me where you're at so I can get to the page.
Ralph Copeland, Copperopolis. Just really quick on the lease. Okay, I was on 2 grand juries, so I understand what went into this report. And please take it very serious. And what I've heard today, you guys are. But it's a lot of work by these people. A lot of their time, they're all volunteers. And this is a year process. It's hours and hours and hours of wordsmithing, crafting, double checking, triple checking. So starting with that, I find it hard to believe they didn't have your lease program in their hands. Now, I know you can't probably say whether or not they did, but I find it hard to believe if they're going to investigate such a program, that they wouldn't have the CCWD/enterprise lease program available to them. But that's just my own personal opinion. Employee culture, please follow the recommendations of the grand jury by contracting a human resource consultant. Finance, I agree with the California State Controller conducting a review of CCWD's internal control system to determine the adequacy of CCWD's controls for conducting this operation. And finally, the computer hardware. Boy, I've been talking about that for a couple of years. And I hope that gets straightened out. And I know you guys have been working hard on it. So that's all I got to say right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Ralph, we'll save the minute that you have left over to next time.
All right, thank you, Mike Rogers, Valley Springs. I'm just going to comment a little bit on the vehicle lease program. I'll defer these other topics to my compadres over here, but little background. My organization company, we had a service organization in the US and Canada. We had hundreds of vehicles in our fleet. One of the things that defines a lease, and the way I read this on page 3 of 6, where you have the 5 options, I think you own the vehicle outright, you can sell it, you can keep the proceeds or put it back into the program. Those are all good. That really is a conditional sale. That's not a lease. So by IRS standards, this is not a lease program. This is a conditional sale by IRS definitions. The other thing that jumps off the page at me is, I don't know, what's the organization, 75 people, roughly? And you got 70 vehicles in the fleet. That's almost a 1-to-1 ratio. That one's got me scratching my head. And I know there's some really specialty vehicles out there. We had similar things, we had flatbeds, we had test vehicles and things like that only went on the road under certain conditions. So I understand that, but it seems like a very high number to me for an organization of this size. Lastly, and this is just a comment, that use of a personal vehicle is a form of employee compensation. And typically, when you have an employee vehicle, the lease value is imputed against the mileage is imputed against the lease value. It's added to your W-2 as compensation at the end of the year. So I would be very concerned or question the amount of personal usage that these vehicles, and what percentage of the vehicles are used for personal use, and is the district being compensated for the use of that vehicle for personal use, because it is a form of compensation. And my belief is that in order to meet the IRS guidelines, that you certainly have to record that mileage. And again, you take that mileage, you impute it against the lease value, it gets added to the employee's W-2 as compensation. And if they're being compensated for it, is the district being compensated for it? It's not the ratepayer's responsibility to be providing personal transportation for the employees of this district. That's my comment. Thank you.
Francisco de la Cruz, Valley Springs. My questions have to do a little bit with software. I had 10, 15 years of software development experience, and I'm wondering what software development life cycle the district uses to manage or develop its software. Are you all familiar with a software development life cycle, or I see? Okay. If I were to ask for your requirements document for the billing system or the ERS system or the new web system, would that document exist?
Yeah, that would have been part of the configuration of the system with the vendor.
But it's a requirements document that I get requested by FOIA, and I get a copy of what all the requirements.
I believe off the top of my head, we'd have to look and see what we have
Okay.
on file.
To be honest, Mike, you wouldn't be having all of these problems if such a document existed and you managed to. That's been my own experience. Okay, so I'm asking kind of is it there if it's not there? In terms of culture, turnover is a metric. Are any of your management staff held to a turnover metric in terms of their staff? In other words, if your team, no? Same thing with appraisals. That's a metric, percent completed on time, et cetera. You track that at the employee level? Probably not, if you're getting complaints from even one person. This points out to the thing that we've been harping on, and I know it's beating a dead horse, but all of these are metrics. All of these things exist. They exist in the corporate world. They don't have to be created from scratch. I just suggested to Kelly and Mike, Qualtrics, which is a company that's available out there that does internal and external surveys. You all have to just pay a service fee. They handle everything else, and you get this nice reports that you can take some action on. Heartily encourage you to look into it and getting it deployed as quickly as possible, or you'll be revisiting this again. Lastly, there was some talk about the unfairness of the rate increase on residents versus commercial. And as you'll recall, I previously requested a computer copy of the pages that you all use to calculate everything. And I was told, well, it's been published, so it's there, and we won't give it to you in another form. It would make it a lot easier to speak with data and facts if we had access to that information, because I still contend that the variable rates that are in place, they're not described adequately enough for anybody to understand how it is that you came up with $2.07 versus $3.37, and how it is that you came up with a 0 to 15 as a first tier, 15 to 30, et cetera. And how you can justify all of those changes directly tied to the cost of service. Because if you think about treated water, as I understand it, tank B is a hub. And tank B feeds a bunch of other tanks, right? But it all comes out of Calaveras, right? So to get water from Calaveras to tank B, it's a cost. To get it to all these other tanks, it's all incrementally charged. But yet you came up with a system that says, well, if this guy has lawns and he uses 25 HCFs, and this guy only has 3 kids and he only uses 2 HCFs, this guy's going to pay 4, 5, 6 times more than this guy just because he used more. But I don't see any methodology or algorithm that justifies that significant jump in tiers. And tiers are an interesting thing because in other places, they've been shot down. And I don't want to take the necessary time now to start an action to challenge those formally, to give you an opportunity to say, look, here's how they're linked to the cost of service. Here's the data, here's the production data, here's the loss data, et cetera. And here's how we came up with, it costs you this much to use a 1-inch line, or it costs you this much to use a 5/8 line. I would encourage a little bit more openness and transparency. We're not here to hang you, we're here to help you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco.
Mike Castro Valley Springs. On the vehicle lease program, my only kind of observation on it is there's reference there that after 5 years, the CCWD may become owners of those vehicles. I don't know if they're flat paid out by the lease term or what have you, and that they can choose to retain that vehicle in inventory or they can sell it. If they sell it, I hope you guys have some sort of program determined so that the money that's brought in from the sale of any of those vehicles can only be used to offset the costs of future lease vehicles and not get utilized for anything else. Okay, that's just where my head was. Thank you.
So we have an option there, but currently the choice that we've made is to roll the proceeds right back into the program.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to hear, is that they're only going to go right back into the lease program. Okay.
Patrick Roy, Rancho Calaveras again. Again, on the topic of vehicles and leasing and so forth, I'd like to bring up that personal use of vehicles by government and agency employees of any type is a considerable expense borne by the general public. And that expense basically is made to reduce the expenses of government agency employees. So I don't see justification for the general public to provide personal transportation for public employees. Moving on to another topic, I guess that was Enterprise that the agency that called in on a comment earlier, a representative of. He could be quite helpful in breaking down the cost versus benefit of leasing versus purchasing, because on most asset and liability sheets I've ever seen, a lease is a liability, a purchase builds to an asset. And so who is providing for all the maintenance or repairs of these leased vehicles during the lifespan of the lease? Those same repairs and maintenance would be required of a purchased vehicle. However, with a leased vehicle, there's no benefit of continued possession or use after the end of the lease unless a purchase of that lease of that vehicle is made, and that is not guaranteed. So how do the ratepayers come out in maximizing the dollar spent on their rates work out for leases versus purchases? The current situation with CARB and their mandates for electric vehicles is contingent upon the continuation of the current legislature and governor's position in the state government. That is subject to change, and we could almost predict that the mood of the public is such that will change soon, and that those CARB regulations will be rejected or restored to something a little bit more functional. Other states were already rejecting the California program, so we might want to consider that conversion to electric is not assured, and work on that basis.
It's a state law.
State law, right?
That laws can be changed,
Not
and
by the governor, can.
people didn't vote on it. It was legislated, so I think it can be changed.
It's enforcing.
Everybody in CARB is in an appointed position, so just like
I hope
state
you're right.
CPUC, and
Let's hope.
so forth. So there is the possibility, there's a chance that things could get reversed. And I think there's a good chance of that.
We can't really plan on hope.
I understand. I definitely recognize your position on that and understand it. But we do need to establish the cost versus benefit of the lease over a purchase, assets versus liabilities. One thing, you have something in your hand, the other don't. You're just going to keep paying for it.
And just so everybody knows, this program has the word lease in it in its title. It's really not a lease. It is not a lease.
I'm sorry, we can't go on by what we think it might be. We have to go by what it says to
Okay.
kind of paraphrase Jeff. So it's a lease or it's not a lease.
It's not a lease.
Then it has to be redefined.
We
It has to be
presented
renamed.
in conjunction with Enterprise in detail on this program on multiple occasions. We're happy to bring it back and do it again. I think this is an appropriate time to do so. So we'll
Okay, thank you.
agendize it and bring it back.
At least the public, or the agreement is a public document. also.
Yeah.
All right, it's available. It's in the packet.
Okay, any other public comment on this? Anybody online? Yes? No? Okay, can we move on now? All right, item 5, reports. We have a general manager report.
Just finishing my notes.
We have a drum roll.
I don't know if I can live up to that enthusiasm, but fairly short report today. Sorry, I just had it here.
You have 3 minutes, Michael.
I might be able to beat that. So a couple of things couple of, I guess, important meetings last week. CPPA met on Wednesday, and actually the electrical rate is ticking down a little bit more again, which is great news. We'll have more detail on that in the near future. But more to, and it's kind of, I think this is an item we'll probably bring back to talk about in more detail, but CCWD had budgeted this year for a study to identify the infrastructure needs for our fleet, if, you know, as we have to plan for electrification. I approached CPPA about the possibility of doing that with, you know, having CPPA sort of lead that effort, since all of the member agencies of CPPA have fleets, well, most, not the fire districts, I don't think, but most of the member agencies of CPPA have fleets that are also going to have to comply with this. So let's make this a collaborative countywide effort and pool that cost and actually have better data come back to us as well. So the board members were open to it. We're going to discuss it in greater detail at the next CPPA board meeting. So we're going to hold off on the CCWD specific study for now and see if we can work with CPPA on a better work product that's more useful for all public agencies in Calaveras County. And I think it'll also be an important advocacy tool for us to have, because then we can take that information and go to PG&E. We already know what PG&E is going to say. The grid's not adequate, and here's, you know, it's going to be a pretty substantial cost to meet it. But that, all of that data can really help inform the advocacy we're doing on the Clean Fleets rule.
Can you take a minute, since we have a handful of people here for a change? And I don't know if everybody understands who CCPA is and how we get our power.
Happy to. Calaveras Public Power Authority is the agency, a joint powers authority. So that's a joint powers authority is a government entity that was created by other government entities by contract. CPPA was created in the early 80s because Calaveras County gets first preference power from the Central Valley Project because of the construction of New Melones. There's only 3 counties in the state that get first preference power. Calaveras, Tuolumne because of New Melones, and it's a county up north that I'm forgetting which one it is, but we are one of them. It's only that discounted power is only available to public agencies in Calaveras County. It's not available to residents or retail customers, but it provides a benefit to all of our customers because it gives us a discount on a significant discount on the power that we consume as public agencies. So the board is made up of 7 members. Not unlike the UN Security Council, there's 5 permanent members, which I think is funny, but the 5 permanent members include CCWD because we are by far the largest load in CPPA service territory. So we have a permanent seat on the CPPA board, along with Calaveras County, City of Angels Camp, Calaveras Public Utilities District, and whoever I'm forgetting, I apologize right now. And then the other 2 seats rotate in among the other special districts in the
School district?
So it's probably Office of Education.
On the board.
It's either Office of Education or it's the Calaveras Unified School District. They're both on the board right now. I can't remember which one is the permanent. But
Anyway, we get our power at a significant discount as opposed to going through PG&E.
right. That's the 60-second primer on CPPA, but we'll as that develops, it would be something I think the CPPA board would probably be the best one to spearhead that effort because it could collect all the data that it's going to need from each of the member agencies and provide direction to a consultant to provide that information to us. You know, so it benefits all of the Calaveras County public agencies. So I'll keep you posted on that. We also had a camera meeting last week. Interesting discussions at camera that we'll be bringing back in the near future. There's a real robust discussion about whether that needs to be a joint powers authority. So we're exploring ways to continue the benefit of having the knowledge sharing and the information sharing that happens at camera, but maybe not have it as a joint powers authority and all of the administrative concerns that come with that. And since we do have folks new that are listening in, CAMRA is the Calaveras Amador McCallamy River Association. It is one of 2 JPAs among Calaveras Mook River users. We're also a member of the Upper McCallum River Watershed Authority. So there's two joint power authorities focused on McCallum River use. So we'll bring that discussion back to the board as well. There may be future board action required as if the decision is made to dissolve the camera as a JPA, what then takes its place, and how do we retain the benefits of camera without the administrative, hassles of it. We mentioned already this week, external relations meeting next week. Tyler implementation is in full swing. Pleased to report there has been a lot of progress made on that. Kelly Richards in the lead on that project and really taking it by the horns. So a lot of work going into implementation. This will be, the piece that we've been waiting for is the finance module and the HR modules, both being implemented over the next several months. And in that process, we're hoping that in and of itself should help the utility billing module function better, but then also identify ways along with the consultant that we're working with to go back into utility billing and make sure that that's optimized as well. So obviously very excited to get through the end of that process and get it working the way it's supposed to be working. There's just a lot of the meetings with the Highway 4 group continue. We're reviewing right now a draft of a memorandum of understanding that would make sure we kind of clarify roles and responsibilities among those agencies as we go forward with a regional water supply study. And then also working on a scope of work for a consultant to provide some assistance to that effort. Hopefully both of those things coming back to this board either late August or early September, so we can really get that in full swing as soon as possible. That's all I have for now, unless there's any questions for me.
The makeup of the Highway 4 group, has that changed at all, or is it still pretty much intact?
Yeah, it's still really just us and the Utica agencies. So Utica Water and Power Authority, City of Angels Camp, and Union Public Utilities District. We're going to reach out to some other agencies that are, there are other agencies within that corridor that we're going to coordinate with as well. But at least initially, in terms of really getting it off the ground and getting the planning effort going, it's the four of us that are.
And you're talking about water needs.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Bertha, do you have anything to report?
My son upgraded my car by 15 years.
Nice, good for you.
So you're driving a 56 Chevy now? Or?
A 2017.
56 Chevy would be worth more money.
Yeah.
Is that it?
It's quiet up the hill.
Okay. Director Retterman?
Yeah, Michael did mention it, but the NCPA, the Northern California Power Association or Power Agency Annual Commission Dinner is being held tonight in Murphy's, in the heat of Murphy's Park. We will be meeting up there. JPIA has a couple meetings next week, Tuesday and Wednesday in Roseville. And then Mountain County's has another one of their receptions, or our receptions, I should say, in Placerville on August 8th. And our meeting will be again in Placerville on August 9th. And everyone is invited to that reception in Placerville as well, and encouraged to attend.
When is it?
It's Thursday, August 8th.
Do you have any comments that you'd like to make about the property committee, the ad hoc
Well, the
activities?
real estate ad hoc property committee looking at properties that CCWD owns will be meeting on Monday. Our meeting was moved from this week, surprisingly, from the yesterday till to the next Monday. I guess I was the only one that was surprised. I was almost in my car on my way here before I found out that it had been moved. But we'll be meeting on Monday.
And,
I have faith that that meeting will take place.
all right, and I'll make some comments on that too, when I have a moment. Director Davidson.
I'm too excited to hear about the property committee for that mention. So I'll just pass.
You have nothing to report.
No, not with that kind of action coming about that.
Okay, Director Cicada.
Well, here's something you may like to enjoy.
Mhm.
So West Point is going to be having their first annual West Point Town Square Street Party, August 10th. They want help in doing a fundraiser so they can build an inviting downtown public space to be enjoyed by all. So that's August 10th from 5 to 10. They're closing some streets. There's going to be all the goodies, family games. I can send this to you, Kelly. Maybe put it on our website. Live music, raffles, golf ball race, food, and a no-host bar. So if you can go, West Point on Main Street.
You got beer?
I don't, but it sounds like they will. Well, usually at the Lumberjack Days, I know they have good margaritas. So anyhow, but that'd be kind of cool if anybody can head up in that area of the county to support them would be nice. They have a West Point Town Square public group, on social media somewhere. And there's 265 members, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is a big group.
And the
Yeah.
purpose of that is to raise funds for that park that you're trying to.
Well, they're calling it the Town Square, so I have a feeling it'll be the park and a little bit more, hopefully, a nice gathering area. For, who knows, maybe, I don't know. But a park for sure. So if you can go, I think that would be great to support them. And that's all I have to say. Kelly, I will send you actually on Facebook.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, the items that I would like to report on is two. The Calaveras County Parks and Recreation Commission. That's a commission that I have had the pleasure of serving on for the last couple of years. And especially Director Radaman wants to hear about the stellar advances that we've made. You may have been following the fact that the Board of Supervisors allocated some money toward exploring the possibility of expanding our offerings in this county about parks and recreation activities. They had a source of funds from some juggling around that they did with the transient occupancy tax, TOT. And so they hired a consulting company. They haven't published their finished report yet, but they spent about $240,000 on this report. And I think that the fact that they were motivated to do that in large part was attributable to the efforts of this countywide commission that we've been pleading with them to recognize that there's some deficiencies, some significant deficiencies in the parks and recreation offerings in the county. And then they, on their adoption of their budget going forward, they have also allocated another $240,000 toward continuing the efforts of exploring the expansion of parks in the county and all sorts of activities. And there's some really pretty active and very effective members of the commission. And those just I'll get to you in just a second. The meetings, since this is a county commission, you can go to the county website to see when those meetings are occurring. We have most of them at the library over here nearby. And I would encourage you to come and participate in those meetings. And then I also wanted to comment a little bit on the ad hoc committee. The purpose of that is just to have us take a close look at the CCWD owned parcels around the county, which there are a number of them, and look to see if there's possibilities that exist about having some money generated either through the leasing of those properties for helipad. There's one project up in the northern reaches of the county that an organization up there would like to lease a property for the purpose of health and safety issues, and that wouldn't produce a lot of money, but it would be a worthwhile thing to contribute toward the health and safety considerations of the county. We have a 15-acre parcel up on the road up here that initially was purchased by CCWD as a potential site for this building or a building like this. And after they figured out that the left turn lane that would be required there would be a very expensive proposition, they sought this parcel here in the Reed. This is
They were entirely unrelated, but there was probably 15 years that came between the two. Purchase that and purchase of this property, but.
So it wasn't, isn't it true?
Correct. It was originally going to be a new location for but they wasn't, they had abandoned that before we bought them.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that was back in the 1800s when you first got in there.
There, when you rode the wagon in, yeah.
All right. Francisco, you mentioned before that levity is needed here. So give us some more levity.
More of an offline discussion on your involvement with the Park Commission, because we're trying to help the Jenny Lind Veterans Memorial Park get resurrected. And we're trying to hook up with the very commission that you sit on to see if there's any synergies so that we could help, because right now it's just a bunch of old dudes with weed whackers. Thank you. Offline.
Okay. Yeah. Director Davidson will jump into that too, right?
I have my opinions, that's for sure.
Okay. All right. That concludes my comments on the board reports. I have no future agenda items to recommend, and I didn't hear any others make those recommendations either.
I'll just make one. I will take a little time on the comment. When it comes to the park and rec, whether it's Jenny Lind Vets or the county park and wide, I sure hate to see them come up with a new list of projects that existed from the last list we did 10 or 15 years ago, which doesn't have any funding source to operate them. Hopefully they're looking to spend the $240,000 on developing a funding source to develop projects instead of developing a wish list that has no funding. That's my political statement.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what he said.
Exactly.
But I've been involved in it many times.
Okay, moving on. We have our next board meetings as listed. Next one will be August 14th. The following one will be August 28th. We are now going into closed session. We have a conference with legal counsel regarding an anticipated litigation, significant exposure litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 of Government Code, Section 54956.9. We have two potential cases. So, do we have any public comment on these items, or well, you don't know what they are, but we'll be reporting. We'll we'll tell you all about it when we come back, if we have an opportunity to, if we have any reportable actions. So, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. There were good comments today. Appreciate it.
Yeah.